Okay, this video I'm going to go over how to find domain and range using technology, which means to basically use your graphing calculator. Now, you should know by now that at the bottom of your Chromebook screen, you have this calculator button right here. This is the graphing calculator that I want you to open and use. So you're going to open it up and have it open on your screen while you're working on the Delta Math assignment. Now I'm going to hit clear, and for these problems you're going to need to graph, so you're going to want to use the y equals button here. That is how you put an equation into your graph. So here's our function. It says using graphing technology, find the domain of the function f of x equals, same thing as y equals, x squared plus 4x plus 7. So in my y equals, I'm going to put x squared, so the x button is right here next to the alpha key. I'm going to hit squared plus 4x plus 7. And then I'm going to hit graph. And I can see that the graph kind of comes down, bounces, and goes back up. Now, domain is talking about x values. So this point right here, the low point, would matter if I was talking about range, right? Because range goes from bottom to top. So we know that the range of this graph wouldn't go below here. But since we're talking about domain, it doesn't actually matter. What matters is that it goes to the left forever and it goes to the right forever, right? And you can go to the table, second graph, and you can see that I can click this a million times and it will always have a y value there. It's going to keep going forever and ever in the left direction, and it's going to keep going forever in the positive x direction. So that means that our domain, we say, is from negative infinity to infinity. So we're going to use the open parentheses since we're talking about infinity, and we're going to say, type a minus, which is next to the 0 key on your keyboard, negative infinity to positive infinity. We're going to hit submit. We're going to, are you sure? Yes. And it's going to tell us we're right. Right. And then it'll show you what the graph actually looked like. Okay. And it'll give you a little explanation. So let's try one more, maybe two more. All right, new problem. Okay, so this is a more difficult function to type into my calculator. Again, we're talking about the domain. So let me go to y equals, clear out the last one. Square root, we hit second, and then it's right here. Square root x plus 1. Now you'll notice the minus 4 is actually on the outside, so we're going to have to hit the arrow to the right to get out of the square root, and then we hit minus 4. Hit graph, and it looks like this. So domain, it starts here, and it goes forever that way. So from left to right, it is never going to be left of this point. And you can probably see that on the x-axis that takes place at -1, but let's just go to our table to make sure. Right, everything left of -1 is an error. So we know it goes from -1 all the way to positive infinity. It's going to keep going this way. So what we say is the domain is from -1, including that number. So that's a closed bracket from -1 to positive infinity. Okay, and it shows you, it even shades, this green shaded part is the part that the domain covers, right? It starts here and it goes that way with an arrow. All right, so let's try one more. Let's make sure we get like a hard one to type. Looking for like an absolute value, maybe. Here we go. So these bars right here are called absolute value, and the way that you type that in your calculator, I'm going to go to y equals and clear this. So this is kind of a complicated list of steps to get this bar right here. So I'm going to go through this right now, and you can always, if you get this kind of problem, you can always rewind this video to remember how to get it. So you're going to hit the, I'm going to hit my negative first since that comes first. Then to get absolute value, you hit math, you go over to the right, you want to go to number, so over to the right, and you see the first option says abs, that's absolute value, so hit enter. And now it has the two bars, so I'm going to put x minus 4 in there. And I'm going to hit graph. And this is what my graph looks like. It's like a upside down V shape. It starts all the way down here, it comes up, and it bounces back down. It wants the range for this problem. So the range means from bottom to top, what does this graph cover? Well, this goes forever down in both of these directions, but it never goes above this y value. What is this y value? This is 0 on our y-axis. This is 0. So from negative infinity all the way up to 0 and then back down to negative infinity. So we say from bottom to top, negative infinity, all the way up to 0 and including 0. So remember, infinity is always in open parentheses. So from negative infinity all the way up to 0. Okay, so that's a few examples on how to do this. I want you to use your graphing calculator to help you. You really have to use your graphing calculator. Don't forget, you always have the table as an option, right? The y value of 0 is the highest y value that graph showed.